Okay, we're in um Vav Vav. No, I'm sorry. Vav Hey.
Yeah.
We may not take out oil that must be burnt and seventh year produce from Eretz Israel beyond Eretz Israel. And Reb Shimon says, I heard explicitly that one may take them to Syria, but not beyond Eretz Israel. One may not bring in Truma from beyond Eretz Israel into Eretz Israel. Reb Shimon says, I heard expressly that one may bring in from Syria, but one may not bring from Eretz Israel.
Okay. So in both these cases, the halacha is not going to follow Rabbi Shimon, but it does show to some extent that according to Rabbi Shimon, Syria has many of the matters of Eretz Israel.
They lay down an important principle regarding the seventh year. Whatever human food or cattle food or species of dying matter which does not keep in the ground, the seventh year applies to it and to its proceeds. Beer applies to it and its proceeds. And what are they? The leaves of the wild loaf and leaves of mint, chicory, leeks, portulac, and milkweed. And cattle food, thorns and thistles, and of the species of drying matter, aftergrowth of woad and matter. The seventh year applies to them and their proceeds. Beer applies to them and to their proceeds.
Okay,
Right.
so just a reminder, what that's going to be the contrast between Mishnah Aleph and Mishnah Base is the whether or not there is such a thing as biur. Okay, just to refresh this principle over here, biur means that once produce is no longer freely available in the field, if you have taken Shemitah produce, you have to go and be mafkir it.
Mhm.
Okay, now you can grab it again once you've been mafkir it in front of three other people. But nonetheless, you have to go through the action of being mafkir because that's the mitzvah of biur, of getting rid of the produce once it's no longer available in the field. So Mishnah Beis, od kal acher amru. So the other side of the coin in Mishnah Aleph, kol she'eno ma'achal adam u'ma'achal behema u'mimin hatzovim u'miskayim ba'aretz. Anything that is not human food, or not, or animal food, or something that dyers use and or else it is miskayim ba'aretz, or else it's something that this is a I believe that's yeah that's not an and over there, or else the alternative possibility. So either it's not edible, or else it's found in the ground all the time. Yesh lo shvius v'lo demav shvius. It still nonetheless is subject to the kedusha of shvius. And if you sell it, then the money takes on the kedusha of shvius as well. Okay. Ein lo biur ve'ein lo ledama biur. Then you do not need to get rid of it, and if you sold it, then you don't need to get rid of the money that you used to sell it. Eizehu ikar haluf hashote. So, for example, so what are these cases? The root of the wild loaf. Okay, ve'ikar hadandana, and the root of dandana,
Is mint,
mint. Thank you. Akrabanim, some
the heart's tongue,
artstang, chalbitzin,
the roots of milkweed
milkweed,
and
uh,
hazelwort.
and hazelwort. Okay, I have no idea what any of these species are, but nonetheless, these are species that are still that stay in basically by the time the next year's crop has come around, you've still got the old year's crop hanging around. So there's no din of beer there. I would probably say that's also fitting into this category are lemons. I don't know if
Mhm.
you've got a lemon tree, but we've got a lemon tree, and if you don't take the lemons off the tree, the new crop will start growing with the lemons currently on the tree.
Our lemon tree kind of held has been holding back for this past year, so I'm hoping next this
Ah,
it's grow again. It's
mm,
not really growing.
okay. Anyway, so those are our species of edible foods that stay on that that stay on the tree. Umin hatzovim. Um, what are things that people use for dye? Hapu'ah harachpa. Yeah, some kind of what's your translation?
The matter and so bread, matter and so bread. I
Okay.
don't see what
Yesh
that
lahem
is.
shviyis. So They still have Kedusha Shvius, Uledemeim Shvius, and the money that you use to sell them is takes on the Kedusha of Shvius. Ein lahem bior velo ledmehen bior, but there's no need to get rid of them. Rabbi Meir Omer Demein Misbarim ad Rosh Hashanah. So Rabbi Meir has an interesting little chumrah over here. He says that yeah, the produce itself doesn't need beer, but the money you have to get rid of at Rosh Hashanah time. And what's his for? Why would Rabbi Meir say such a thing? He says because the produce is recognizable as produce, and you're going to be careful about it. But he says money, that I'm concerned about because money looks like money, and any money, all money looks the same. So you have to put it separately and then do a beer on it by Rosh Hashanah, just to make sure that you don't violate the kedusha that's attached to the money. Amru lo lahen ein biur kal v'chomer lidmehen. He says, they said, come on, if you're not going to put beer uh, onto the produce itself, then certainly not onto the money. Okay, and that is the halacha. Gimel, klipe rimon v'hanetz shelo. Okay, so the shell of a rimon and the nates, the feathers that come off it. Klipe egozim v'galinim, and also the shells of nuts and the stones. Yesh lahem
Kernel.
Shevi'is
Shells
v'lidim.
of-
Hmm?
So
And the what?
shells of nuts and the kernels.
The kernels, yes. Like the kernel, the stone, whatever you want to call them. Okay. Yesh lahem Shevi'is v'lidim Shevi'is. They are nonetheless, they do have a kedusha Shevi'is. Now, why would they have Shevi'is? Because they can be used for burning. So even though wood itself does not have Kedusha Shvius, nonetheless, Chazal were machmir with the seeds and the shells, because they and the actual fruit are right. So since the fruit and the seeds that are found inside them are edible, so also the kedusha falls onto the shells.
Mhm.
Now they don't have any din of biur because they're not from the actual ikar pri. They're not the real edible fruit. Um, okay. Gonna need to just looking at this commentary here. הראינו למאכל ובהם להכללה שתמו ולפי שהם יכולים למאכל אדם אלא הוא הדין לביאות. Okay. I just think that there's another opinion that they also have to have biur, but let's not dive into that right now. Hatzabat sovel ha'atzmo. So if a dyer, he knows the art of dyeing, and he sees all these good plants that are good for dye. So he's allowed to take them from Shvius produce and turn them into dye because that's what they're used for. They're not an edible. If they were an edible species, then you wouldn't be allowed to use them for dye because that's destroying them. But something that is actually only used for dye, so
But
fine.
only for himself. He can only do it for himself.
Right. He may not do this for pay. She'ein osin schora b'peres shvius, because now if he were doing that, then he would be making money out of
Yes.
out of shvius fruits. V'lo b'bechoros. And while we're talking about shvius, let's also talk about bechoros. Same thing goes for a bechor. If you are in possession of a bechor, even if you're a Yisrael who's got a bechor balmum, you're still not allowed to make a profit out of bechoros. Lo trumos, and also if you have truma, if you're a Kohen who has truma, or if you're a Yisrael who inherited truma from your Kohen grandfather or something, okay, you're not allowed to sell it for profit. Below benevelos, same, and now for different reasons, you're also not allowed to make a living out of selling nevelas or treifas or shkatzim or velo verasim, all the unkosher species. Um, that's a gezerah that Chazal particularly puts on people, that they shouldn't make a living out of it because that's not something appropriate for a Jew to be making a living out of. V'lo yeh lokech yarkos sadeh u'mocher b'shuk. You shouldn't take the vegetables from the field that grew by themselves. So we're talking not about tzvichin over here. We're talking about things that had already sprouted before Rosh Hashanah, but now that they've gone past Rosh Hashanah, they're legitimate to leave in the field. They had, and you'd be allowed to pick them and eat them. Um, well, so you're not allowed to take them and and start selling them in the shuk because that would be making skora out of Shemitah produce. Well, who locate? He's allowed to accumulate for himself however much he needs, right? You're allowed, however much you're allowed to take for your household for the day. And let's say he doesn't actually need that many for that many vegetables, that much produce. Then then he can say, okay, take half of this and he says to his son, take half of these and sell them as Shemitah produce in the shuk. And that's okay actually, because he was the one who did the gathering, and his son is the one who's doing the selling, and it's a small amount, so this is okay. Lakach la'atzmo, also, if he took produce for himself and he sat down and had his meal and said, "Oh, I couldn't eat another bite, but I've got leftover, chaval for this to go to waste, I'm going to go and sell them." That's actually also okay. So the difference between leftovers and things that he chose to leave over. So
Right.
that's what we're seeing over here in this Mishnah. Daled, lakach bechor lemishte beno or laregel. So if he took a bechor, a firstborn animal so let's say a kohen had a bechor balmum and he sold it to the Israel. The Israel was making a feast, right? He's making a wedding. So he took this bechor to Shecht for his either for his son's wedding or for Yom Tov. And it turns out that there's enough food already, so now he doesn't need it. He's allowed to sell it again, but only at cost. He's not allowed to make a profit. Tzadei chaya ofas v'dagim. Now, moving on back to the subject that we spoke about, people who are about hunting unkosher species. So if you've got people who are professional fishermen, or hunters, trappers, okay, so common case would be a fisherman throws his net in and out come both kosher species of fish and unkosher species of fish. Does he have to throw the unkosher species back in? So it says the Mishnah, mutarim lemochran, you're allowed to sell them to non-Jews. Okay, and same thing goes for he puts out traps in the field and catches non-kosher species. He's allowed to sell them. Rabbi Yehuda, this is the opinion of the Tanna Kama. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Av misha nismana lo lefi darko lokech umocher. And similarly, anyone even who's not a professional, and he happens to come across a freshly dead non-kosher animal, and he wants to make some money cutting it up and selling its meat to goyim. Okay, why not? Sure. So lokech umocher ubilvad shelo tehei uman asodocher. He can do this as long as this is not his profession, that he starts going out looking for non-kosher creatures to sell to goyim. Okay. The Chachamim Osrin. Chachamim say, sorry, you cannot do this. Okay. Now this sounds like very much like Tanna Kama. Why does it say Chachamim Osrin? So there's a difference between the Chachamim and the Tanna Kama. Is that the Chachamim, it seems, are more makil than the Tanna Kama, because the Chachamim are even matir for hunters to go out and wait. So did I get that right? Let me get that wrong. Maybe read this directly from the commentary. Uh, According to the Chachamim, a tzayad, a professional hunter, is even allowed to intend to trap tamei animals in order to pay off his tax debts and that they put on him. But according to Tanna Kama, even though he's a professional hunter, he's not allowed to sell tamei animals unless they just happen to fall into his net. Okay, so that's the difference between Tanna Kama and Chachamim. And actually, the Rambam paskins that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, which is an interesting thing. You normally don't paskin like a das yachid, but in this particular case, Rambam seems to rule halacha that even a regular person who comes across a carcass of a non-kosher animal can take it and sell its meat to non-Jews.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Daled Gimel.
Just go over here. Okay. Now, newly plowed land may be rented from a non-Jew in the seventh year, but not from a Jew. And one may encourage non-Jews in the seventh year, but not Jews, and one greets them for the sake of peace. If one thins out olive trees, but Shammai says he cuts them to the roots, and Beis Hillel says he may uproot them. But they admit that if he levels, he may only cut them to the roots. What is thinning? One or two. Leveling? Three. One next to the other. When does this apply? In his, but his neighbors, even if he levels, he may uproot. If one splits wood off an olive tree, he may not cover it with earth, but he may cover it with stones or with straw. And if one cuts down a sycamore tree, he may not cover it with earth, but he may cover it with stones or with straw. One may not cut a virgin sycamore tree in the seventh year because it is regarded as work. Rabbi Yehuda says it's forbidden in the usual manner unless he raises 10 to tefachim or cuts down to the roots.
Okay. Kilayim, base tis.
If one wishes to lay out his field in patches of differing species, he may take 24 patches to a beit saw. Each patch one bet rova and sow in it in any species he wishes. If there were one or two patches, he may sow them with mustard. Three, he may not sow them with mustard because it looks like a mustard field. So says Rav Meir, but the comments say 9 patches are permitted, 10 are forbidden. Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov says even if all his field is a beit kor, he may not make it in more than one patch. Everything within a beit rova is included in the measurement of the beit rova. The space occupied by a vine, a grave, or a rock is included in the measurement of a beit rova. And grain with grain, a beit rova, vegetables with vegetables, 6 cubits. Grain with vegetables, vegetables with grain, a beit rova. And Reb Eliezer says vegetables with grain, 6 cubits. Grain overhanging grain, vegetables over vegetables, grain over vegetables, vegetables over grain. All is permitted except Greek gourd. The mayor says also cucumber and Egyptian beans, but I prefer their words to mine. Okay. And Tevel Yom. Okay. Gimel. A nail-shaped protrusion on the back of a loaf, a small lump, a clump of salt, or a burnt crust that is less than a finger breadth. Rabbi Yossi says whatever is eaten together with the loaf, are tamei in regard to Tevel Yom, and is needless to say in regard to all other sources of tumah. A pebble in the loaf, a large clump of salt, or a lupin, or a burn crust that is greater than a finger breadth. Rabbi Yossi says whatever is not eaten together with it is tahor in regard to an avatuma, and it is needless to say in regard to a tevel yom. Barley and spelt that are not peeled, atia, asphodeta, and alum. Rabbi Yehuda says even black beans are tahor in regard to avatuma, and it is needless to say in regard to tevel yom. These are the words of Rav Meir, but the comments say they are tahor in regard to a tevel yom, but a tummy in regard to all the sources of tumah. Barley and spelt that are peeled, and wheat, whether it was peeled or not peeled, ketzak, sesame, and pepper. Rabbi Yehuda says even white beans are tummy in regard to tevel yom, and needless to say in regard to all other sources of tumah.
Elim.
Regarding the hides of a householder, though thought renders them tamei, but regarding hides of a tamer, thought does not render them tamei. Regarding hides of a thief, thought renders them tamei, but regarding hides of a robber, thought does not render them tamei. Reb Shimon says the opposite. Regarding hides of a robber, thought renders them tamei, but regarding hides of a thief, thought does not render them tamei. But since the owners have not spared, regarding a hide that is tamei midras and one decided to use it for straps or for sandals, or as soon as he applies the knife to it, is tahor. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda, but the comments say until he reduces it to less than 5 handbreadths. But Elazar the son of Zedek says even if one makes a napkin from a hide, it remains tamei, but from a mattress, it is tahor. Cloth can contract tumor in 5 categories. Sack can contract tumor in 4 categories. Hide can contract tumor in 3 categories. Wood can contract tumor in 2 categories, and earthenware can contract tumor in 1 category. Earthenware is susceptible to tumor as a receptacle, and any earthenware utensil that has no interior has no exterior. And wood exceeds earthenware, and that wood is subject to tumor as a seat. Similarly, regarding a tray that has no rim, if it is a wooden utensil, it's susceptible to tumor, but if it's an earthenware utensil, it is tahor. Hide exceeds wood in that a hide is subject to roof tumor, and sack exceeds hides in that a sack is subject to tumor as a woven article. Cloth exceeds sack in that cloth is subject to tumor when it measures 3 finger breadths by 3 finger breadths.
Okay.
Okay. Lewis. Hey, Donald, hey. I adore you that you come and testify for me that I have in so and so's possession a deposit, a loan, a stolen article, and a lost article. And they reply, we swear that we do not know any testimony for you. They are liable only once, but if they reply, we swear that we do not know that you have in so and so's possession a deposit, a loan, or a stolen article, or a lost article, they are liable for each one. I adore you that you come and testify to me that I have in so and so's possession a deposit of wheat, barley, and spelt. And they reply, we swear that we do not know any testimony for you. They are liable only once. But if they reply, we swear that we do not know any testimony for you that you have had in so and so's possession wheat, barley, and spelt, they're liable for each one. I adore you that you have come and testified for me that I have in so and so's possession damages, or half damages, double payments, fourfold or fivefold payment, or that so and so violated my daughter and seduced my daughter, or that my son struck me, or that so and so violated his daughter, or seduced his daughter, or that my son wounded me, that my neighbor wounded me, or that he ignited with grain a snack on the Sabbath. These are exempt. I adore you that you come and testify to me that so and so promised to give me 200 zuz, but he did not give me. They are exempt, for one is not liable except for a claim of money, as in the case of deposit. I adore you.
You skipped a Mishnah.
I skipped one.
That's why I got lost because there were two that were similar. I think you skipped Mishnah Vav.
Uh, I adore you. It's above. Okay. I adore you that you come and testify to me that I have in so and so's possession damages, or half damages, double payments, or fourfold, fivefold payment, or that so and so violated my daughter or seduced my daughter, or that my son struck me, or that my neighbor wounded me, or that he ignited a stack of grain on Yom Kippur. They are liable.
Right, those are liable. So the ones that were I think you skipped something in the middle. So just do Zion again because we missed the.
I adore you that you come and testify to me that I am a Kohen, that I am a Levi, that I am not the son of a divorcee, and that I am not the son of a Chalutza, and so is a Kohen, that so and so is a Levi, that he is not the son of a divorcee, that he is not the son of Chalutza, exempt for one, is not liable except for a claim of money, as in the case of a deposit.
Right,
All right.
that's okay. Adkan. Okay, let's do the last one ourselves because I'm late for Shakras.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Well, for myself. Okay. All
Okay.
right. Have a
Bye.
great day.
Bye.